Hi lovies and welcome back to this channel. If you're new here, my name is Belinda's channel. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Don't forget to please subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications so that anytime I upload a video, you will be the first person to be notified. And to my returning subscribers, thank you so much for all the love and support. To those people that share my videos, leave commentaries and also educate you guys are the real MVP. Thank you so much for all the love and support. So lovely, I came across this video on my For You page on TikTok and I thought I'd share with you guys. But a lot of pan-colored people is asking what is the need of celebrating Juneteenth and what is Juneteenth, and I was just able to put up some of the stitches explaining why it is necessary for black people to actually celebrate Juneteenth. And I'm just going to roll the clip as well as some of other stitches I was able to put together. Please leave me your own thoughts in the comment section of what you think of this video. Alright lovelies, let's dive into it.
What the hell is Juneteenth, and why do we even bother celebrating it? And to my fellow white people, this one's for you. Now I'm going to drop some knowledge on you really fast, so please try to keep up. Juneteenth was made into a federal holiday by President Biden back in 2021. Now, Juneteenth, or June 19th, is when we now recognize the official end of slavery in the states here in America. It ended in Texas on June 19th, 1865, which about 250,000 enslaved Americans gained their freedom. Now, to be factually correct, Oklahoma still had enslaved Americans, but they were only a territory. And please listen to me as I tell you this, because I'm going to point out two very uncomfortable truths here in America. Number one, there was a little over 12 million Africans who were enslaved and shipped over to the New World, and only about 10.5 million of them made it, meaning roughly 1.5 million enslaved Africans lost their lives just on transporting the transport over here to America. And at the time of emancipation, there were almost 4 million enslaved Americans who were given their freedom. So 10.5 million enslaved Americans, 4 million granted their freedom. So that means 6.5 million enslaved men and women were worked to death without compensation, plus the 1.5 million that were lost while being transported over here. Those souls are gone forever. That gives us a total of about 8 million human lives. But do you know how many soldiers, American soldiers, we've lost in all our wars, both combat and non-combat casualties? About 1.5 million. That's over 5 times as many people that lost their lives than we've lost soldiers. This is a serious holiday. And to further prove my point, speaking of holidays, Christmas is the most popular holiday here in America. And we all know Santa Claus, the guy that I look like, reigns supreme. But did you know Santa Claus was created as a marketing campaign by Coca-Cola Bottling Company, yeah, Coke, 125 years ago? Have you ever wondered why Santa's red and white, Coke is red and white, why Santa and Coca-Cola dominate Christmas? We care more about Christmas than trying to fix and repair our past where we enslaved innocent people and just celebrating them getting their freedom. I think that's kind of messed up, and I'll be proud to celebrate Juneteenth tomorrow in Cincinnati at the FC Cincinnati Major League Soccer game. We're having HBCU night, and I'm going to soak in the moment and the importance of what this night means. I'll see you on the road.
Some of y'all don't know what Juneteenth is, so I'm here to break it down for you. The Emancipation Proclamation was signed by Abe Lincoln all the way back in 1863. However, it wasn't until 1865 that Union soldiers made their way all the way down to Galveston Bay, Texas, and announced that over 250,000 slaves would be freed by decree of the Emancipation Proclamation. And this happened on June 19th, the birth of Juneteenth. So we don't celebrate the day the Emancipation Proclamation was signed as the ending of slavery because it took a long time before all those slaves throughout the country were actually notified. We didn't have social media and telephones and text messages and email to let all the slaves know you're free now. It actually took Union soldiers, many of whom were black, to march from the North throughout the South and announce to the world that slavery had ended. For all you black people out there, live it up. Celebrate, barbecue, hang out. Be happy to be black. Be proud to be black. Be happy to be free. Or, as free as you feel in this country sometimes. And for all you non-black people, celebrate. Slavery's over. You know what I'm saying? It's still something to celebrate. Even if your people, your ancestors weren't enslaved Africans. If you're not black, you can tell a black person happy Juneteenth. If you're black, you can tell a black person happy Juneteenth. A non-black person can tell another non-black person happy Juneteenth. Why would we choose to not celebrate the ending of slavery? And it's not critical race theory. We keep bringing up bad things, therefore it's going to make black people hate white people. That's not what we're talking about. We got Labor Day as a federal holiday. Come on now. People will tell you happy Valentine's Day. don't even know what Valentine's Day is. People don't celebrate the 4th of July and think that it's gonna make us hate Great Britain. No. People don't celebrate Mexican Independence Day to make people hate Spain. We celebrate Thanksgiving every year, and some of y'all still think that the Pilgrims and the Natives was cool. Pick up a book, brother. That was not cool at all. I just came on here to say, don't make it weird. Juneteenth is something worth being celebrated. Some of y'all been celebrating your whole life. Some of y'all didn't even know Juneteenth was a thing, but it's a thing, and yeah, happy Juneteenth.
Look, I know Juneteenth is a new federal holiday, but some of you are already losing the plot, and that is not going to work. There are whole states whose teachers have their arms tied behind their back because they cannot teach the whole lead-up history to what even caused Juneteenth in the first place. Because there's already collective confusion about enslavement and American law and how that all ties together and how it affects today, we have to be really precise about why we celebrate what we celebrate. We have to remember that all states, not just America, states as nations, as government entities, they all tend over time to tell the story about themselves as the memory of the state and not the memory of the people. And that distinction, as we've talked about a million times, is really important because states don't remember individuals or groups or communities and how those people paid for what the state created or has. But when you teach the history of a people, you are remembering the agency, the imagination, and the power that those individuals fought for themselves to carve out a life for themselves or to have a future. What's already happening is people are framing Juneteenth as a celebration of when Black people, enslaved people, were given the news about their freedom, or they were given their freedom. I know not everyone's a history nerd, but we cannot be out here confusing the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st with Juneteenth, which happened 2.5 years about later in June. I'm harping on this because people have taught or tend to see the Civil War as it ended and the traitors, the Confederacy, they agreed and went along with Reconstruction, with giving people back their rights. And that's why anytime you see Black people not ahead or suffering, it's their fault. Because look, we did the process, we did the war, we gave them all the rights, and now it's totally on you. That hides the way white supremacy and white supremacist economies and systems and social structures and traditions decided to hold on to power for as long as possible. That's why 2.5 years later, we've got General Granger reading the Emancipation Proclamation in Galveston. Juneteenth is less about the general being like, hey guys, you're free. And it's more him saying to Texas, to anybody who wants to keep holding on to their slaves and lying to them and pretending that they're not free, that you now have to follow the law and we're going to enforce it. Those 9 about Black regiments marching down into Texas, they weren't there to just spread, tidings of good news and joy. They were there to tell white supremacists, stand down. Juneteenth is not just about one side and another side finding out what the new laws are and saying, hey, let's start enforcing this. This is about the United States government having to say, you guys are lawless human traffickers and you're insurrectionists and you need to cut it out. Christopher Wilson, who works at the Smithsonian's Museum of Natural History, he makes a point that this is not about news traveling slowly through Texas to the poor enslaved people. It's about power traveling slowly, the power to be free and the power to self-determine your own life. The news had been out. The news was still coming. People knew what was going on to some degree. Some people didn't know, but the news was out there. There was nothing stopping people technically from knowing the fact that they were free. But the power, the seizing of that power, the seizing of that freedom, that's what Juneteenth is about. This was news about how still enslaved people who'd been fed lies about the fact that the war was over or not over, and the fact that they were still in chains or still being forced to work the land and still being tortured or whatever, being told not only are you free, but now the power is coming into the state to enforce that freedom. But let's make another distinction here, because that kind of sounded like the federal government was going to come in and do all the work and make sure everyone is free. No, they were offering the enslaved people a chance. If they could get themselves out of rebellious slaveholding areas, that they would have a shot at being free and that they wouldn't be prosecuted for running away. We can never make this about white supremacy saying, okay, you win, or falling down and giving up, or the American people saying, let's pack up the tools of white supremacy because we lost the war, so now we can't do anything about it anymore. This whole following period of time was largely about Black people having to say, what's our plan to get free? What's our plan to take back as much power as possible? And how do we make sure that the rebels that are still around us that will do anything in their power to keep us here, how are we going to get out of this situation? And as Mr. Wilson points out, this is a legacy that has continued today. When Brown v. Board happened, it wasn't the courts that ultimately ended up enforcing the desegregation. It was Black people putting their bodies on the line. Morgan v. Virginia in 1946, he brings this up too. They desegregated the buses, but it wasn't until people, white people and Black people, put themselves on those buses and protested that it actually desegregated. And yes, of course, the Black troops marching in to spread the word of freedom, that's important, that's powerful. There are people who they truly didn't know. But so much of what followed afterwards were Black people saying, all right, let's do something now with this freedom. They had to make it a social reality for themselves, because just because it was a legal reality didn't mean that the country and the culture was ready to back them. There is a reason people do not want to teach the story about what led up to Juneteenth, but will be like, oh yay, we'll put up some Juneteenth stuff, and it's about when Black people found out they were free. Juneteenth connects people today to a legacy of people looking around and realizing they're going to seize the power that the federal government or other people are not going to give to them. It's about realizing the full strength and the deep roots of racism and how it still wasn't strong enough against Black people's collective action. That's not really like a sweet watermelon cocktail holiday, is it? It's kind of scary. And no, people are not just now starting to celebrate Juneteenth because Black people have to be in everything and Black people are everywhere. It's one of those things that people were celebrating for a while in their hometowns, but they never talked openly about it because guess what? Lynchings were a thing, and people would come and attack Black people who were celebrating the freedom that their government told them was in their right to have. Don't let anyone water it down for you. Happy Juneteenth.
Like, seriously, lovelies, a lot of people will be asking so many questions about the celebrations of Juneteenth. As we all know, on the 19th was actually Juneteenth celebration, and it actually got to internet. People were like asking questions, especially, not Black people, and everyone was like, why is it that everything Black people celebrate and all of that? And I was just able to put it up here. I did not know why a lot of people have, issue anytime, Black people decided to celebrate something as big as Juneteenth. It's actually a day of celebration for Black Americans, and the day at which slave was actually officially abolished in Texas. And this is also something that needs to be celebrated because it's actually not easy to be freed. Like, it's not easy to be freed from humiliations, from oppressions, from hard labors, and all of that, even if we still experience one or two of these things in this period. But it's actually something that is needed and it's called for celebrations. And if you have a problem with that, you could just deal with it. That was why I decided to put it up here for us to actually get more enlightened about what is Juneteenth, what is it all about, how is it going on, and all those sort of words. And there is the video that's been also trending on TikTok about some Mexican people not pleased at the way Juneteenth was celebrated without them being inclusive, and I think I'm going to be putting it up here. Anyways, lovelies, if you watch up to this extent, why not just leave me your own thoughts in the comment section of what you think of this video. And do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying, harassment, or whatsoever. We're just here for educational purposes. So please share this video, subscribe to this channel if you're here to do that, and I will see you, lovelies, when I upload the next one.